Hi everyone, and welcome to the tutorial for The Man with the Green Thumb, Tommy's tribute to his own hero Chet Atkins. While I go over some quick pointers, let me roll the Patreon credits. If you want to support me and gain early access to other tutorials, as well as other extras, then please check out the Patreon link down below. If you are getting a lot out of these tutorial videos and you want to support the channel without monthly fees, then you can find a PayPal donate link in the description as well. After the enormous workload of the Endless Road and Pink Panther tutorials, I really enjoyed working on this one. We are back in familiar territory with a traditional song structure. You have an intro, a verse and a chorus, and these are all repeated several times. In part 1, we established the basic framework for the funky intro and the verse. In part 2, we take a look at the chorus, some variations on the verse and the ending. Although Tommy uses a few very specific techniques, mainly in the intro, this song isn't as difficult as some of his other tunes. The picking hand is sticking mainly to the steady alternating bass part, and the melody fits on top of that bass part in a more or less straightforward way. There are only a few places in the song where you have to time certain left-hand techniques to fit over the bass part in a very strict way. The biggest challenge of the song, in my opinion, lies in the fretting hand. The verse uses quite a few chords with the thumb over the side of the neck, and there are a few stretches in there that will cause problems for people with smaller hands. I do provide alternative fingerings and solutions for each of these potential problems, but I ended up with so many alternative fingerings that I decided to record a version of the verse incorporating all of these alternatives in one playthrough. I added this in because I thought it would give a nice overview. So for people with smaller hands who are in doubt whether this song is possible for you, check out the end of part 1 first. But for everyone who wants to jump in straight away, let's begin with the intro. Okay, so let's get straight down to business. All you need is guitar in standard tuning and a thumb pick. The question will no doubt pop up down below in the comments. Is it possible to play this song without the thumb pick? Yes, it probably is, or it most likely is, but you will lose that funky sound. The thumb pick is really important in that aspect. Now let's dive straight in. Let's have a look at the intro because there's a few funny tricks going on in there. Here we go. Now, that was basically all. Sometimes Tommy likes to repeat the intro 2 times, plays 8 bars instead of 4, but this is always the basic technique. Now let's have a look at the fingering first. Tommy is switching around between an A sus2 chord, and he then moves to an F sharp bass note, and despite the fact that he never plays this, he always adds in the pinky on the 4th fret on the A string as well. So you won't see this down below in the tablature, but Tommy always goes from the A sus2 chord, to the thumb over the side of the neck on the 2nd fret on the low E string and the pinky on the 4th fret on the A string. We already played this chord in, I think it was Stay Close to Me. This is an important chord in that song as well. But Tommy actually never plays that 4th fret on the A string. That leaves us with a great opportunity for people who want to avoid the thumb over the side of the neck. They can, in this case, just swap out that index finger and middle finger for the middle finger and the ring finger, and they can play that low F sharp note with the index finger. So this is what it sounds like with Tommy's fingering. And this is what it sounds like with the fingering swapped around. Gone is the thumb, gone is the pinky. I do have the sense that that pinky actually helps with the muting. That's something we'll address in just a second. But it is perfectly possible to play the intro without the thumb over the side of the neck and move to just a traditional fingering. Or maybe even combine both options and go for Tommy's fingering. Use the thumb over the side of the neck if possible, but leave out the pinky. You don't actually need it. As you will see, it's not written down below in the tablature. The picking pattern in itself, if you look at what the fingers are doing, the thumb is, like you would expect in a Tommy song, alternating. but the thumb will be doing something special, not really, but I'll explain in a second. What the fingers are doing is playing a combination of ghost notes and playing arpeggios. So the picking is the exact same thing, but I'm leaving a few things out at the moment. So you're starting out with just an open A bass note, then thumb pick to the D string, and you're plucking with the index finger and middle finger the high B and E string together with the thumb. Then Tommy does something really sneaky. He plays a muted ghost note on the G and B string. So you play the bass note, then the chord tones, and that second bass note at the same time, and then you drop down the fingers and you just play on the G and B string. That's all you're doing. Then moving to the low E string, and then it's bass note, index finger on the G string, bass note on the D string together with the middle finger on the B string, and then moving the middle finger up to the high E string. That's the second part of the arpeggio. Let's put those 4 beats together. And from there on, you basically repeat that last arpeggio 3 times in a row. So opening section with the ghost note, that's basically the intro. It's a really simple picking pattern. You only have to watch out for that middle finger jumping up to the high E string each time. Now, you might notice this still doesn't sound completely like the original intro. It's close, but there is something missing. Tommy is really putting in this big backbeat. The second and the fourth beat are always really clear, really accentuated. And how does Tommy do this? Well, he actually plays 2 strings each time he goes for that bass note on the D string. So, as you can see down below in the tablature, that second fret on the G string on that first chord isn't played with the index finger, middle finger or ring finger, it's played with the thumb. And Tommy is always playing on that second bass note 2 strings, 1, and again to 2 strings. So always 1, 2, 1, 2 in terms of strings. 2 strings, 2 strings, 2 strings, 2 strings. Now make sure not to play those 2 strings by means of force. Don't just push through that D string to get to the G string. If you watch Tommy play, you can actually see that he is angling his thumb pick a little bit forward. He's leaning down his hand to glide past that D string. So don't really go on and start pushing on that D string, because it will sound, you won't get a fluid sound in that manner. So this is what it sounds like if you just pick 1 string. Now 2 strings. You're getting that backbeat is a lot more clear when you play those 2 strings. So angling your hand a little bit forward, just so you always get those 2 strings when playing the bass note on the D string. And you're still not done. As you can hear, Tommy doesn't just leave everything ringing out. He actually mutes almost the whole time. Now, I've watched a lot of videos of Tommy playing this song, and he basically does it a little bit different each and every time. The thing I see him do the most is mute right behind that first chord for the ghost notes, and then keeping down for 2 arpeggio parts, and then releasing again for the very last one. that gives you something like this. But you basically can do it, you can mute after each chord as well. If you want a bit more of a regular or a bit more of a repeating feeling, that's the word I was looking for, to learn the intro in the beginning. But Tommy basically does it a little bit different each and every time. There are even lots of recordings where that open E string on top is muted as well, and it doesn't really lessen the feel or the funkiness of the intro. On the contrary. So as soon as you get those two strings down with the thumb pick on the D string and the G string, and you know how to add in with the correct fingering, jumping up and down with the middle finger mainly, to get that arpeggio on top, then you're pretty much good to go. And if you practice this, speed is the last thing you should worry about. This sounds great, even if you play it really slowly, just if you get that groove together. So this is fine. That sounds fine. You don't have to push on for Tommy's speed right away. Make sure you focus on the groove first. The tempo and all the flashy bits will come later. So that was basically the whole intro. Is 4 bars of the exact same thing. If you're really feeling the funky vibe, then play it for 8 bars. But I think we are about ready to head into the first verse. Now let me play the intro one more time really slowly. That's maybe the only thing I left out. For the end chord, you can just play together the chord on the beat and finish the bass line just to head into the verse. Let's have a look at the verse. I'm going to play through it one time, a bit below Tommy's concert speed, so you can get a first good look. Here we go. Straight back into the intro. Now, there are a few things to go over. So we're starting out with the same A chord we saw in the intro. Sliding up to the 4th fret. Now, there are a lot of different versions, and there are also a lot of versions where Tommy hammers on the same frets. So going from 2 times the 2nd fret to 2 times the 4th fret on the D and G strings. And in some versions, Tommy slides up, and in some other versions, Tommy plays a hammer on. See what works for you. I transcribed it the very first time using the slide, and that is what is stuck in my system right now. So, moving, I'm using in this case first the thumb pick and then the thumb pick and the index finger. Thumb pick keeps alternating. And the rest of the picking pattern isn't that difficult. It can be confusing because you're basically playing the same B note each time, open on the 4th fret and back on the open string. And that's the easy part. Then in the 2nd bar, straight away there's a big chord coming up. Tommy plays with the thumb over the side of the neck. He keeps down these 2 fingers, and he plays a really quick pull-off using the index finger on the 1st fret back to the open string. Moving with the index finger to the 2nd fret on the G string to play the 2nd fret, the A note on the G string. Again, the picking pattern isn't that difficult. If you leave out that really quick embellishment on top, it's this. And that last note is already an upbeat into the next bar. Now, with that pull-off, but straight away there will be people who think, well, this is difficult straight off the bat. Thumb over the side of the neck, pinky ring finger on the 4th fret, and then a pull-off on the 1st fret. That's a bit much. Well, there's good news. I can basically remedy each and every chord in this song with the thumb over the side of the neck. So you can either choose, if you just think that this stretch backwards to the 1st fret is difficult, you can just play a slide with the pinky coming from the 5th fret on the G string as well. It's a little different effect, a slide, instead of the pull-off, but it's the same note. So instead of playing that pull-off on top, you can play a slide here. And that is also where the remedy lies to using. If you don't want to use the thumb over the side of the neck, you just use a bar across the 2nd fret and you play. The transfer into the next chord is a bit more difficult in this way, but you can, if you want to, you can get rid of that thumb over the side of the neck. So the standard fingering. And now the alternative. Almost the exact same thing. We are losing that nice resonance between that open B string and that fretted B note, but that's about everything. Everything else is almost intact. So that was the original fingering. Now the alternative. We're only missing out on that open B string in between there, but you have gotten rid of the thumb. On to the next chord. We're moving to a D chord with an F sharp in the bass. Again, we're playing this with the thumb, but in most versions of Tommy, I actually don't see him play those 3 notes on top. Usually he's leaving out that A note. So again, that leaves you with the possibility to play that bass note with the index finger instead of with the thumb. That's the bar, hammering on from an open E string. A really quick pull-off from the 3rd fret to the 2nd fret. And another pull-off to the open string. Make sure you don't rush that last pull-off. Make sure it lands nicely in between those 2 bass notes. Moving to an A chord. Tommy uses this fingering, ring finger, then the index finger, then the middle finger, because that will make it easier to move to the E chord right after the A chord. One more time, that bar. So that pull off to the open string, I think is the biggest risk in this bar. It is rushing that part. The next part is rather simple. It's that A chord in front of the beat. 3, 4. So that A chord is ringing out across the bar line. Then you move to an E chord. You're not playing the 2nd fret on the E string. You don't need it. Tommy again plays this with the middle finger across 2 strings. 3, 4. Just play an arpeggio, bass note, open E string, bass note, B string. And then from there on, it's into the 2nd part of the verse, which is mostly a repeat of what we just played. On that last section, that A chord and that E chord, Tommy often lightens the muting just a little bit, almost playing open chords. To then really tighten up right away once he enters into the next bar. Those were the first 4 bars. Let me play them back to back, really slowly. As always, focus on the alternating bass line going really solid in terms of timing up and down. And as you might see, the fingers aren't really doing that much work. The biggest challenge for more experienced thumb pickers will be adding in those techniques in the left hand. But here we go, the first 4 bars. That was the first 4 bars. On to the next 4 bars, and we're starting with the exact same thing. Only the last melody note is different. The first time it was just that A note. Now we're adding in an open B string. I'm using thumb pick, index finger, and then the middle finger for the open B string. Chances are Tommy plays those first 2 strings also with one stroke of the thumb pick. So one more time. Moving to a plain D chord. I'm playing this thumb pick on the G string, and then index finger, middle finger on the high B and E string for this hand. Moving up 2 frets, another open D string, and then adding in the pinky on the 5th fret. A slight percussive tap. Tommy does this so lightly. The moment you get that really typical click on the acoustic guitar, it's probably already way too loud. So really softly, maybe with the back of the nails across some muted strings is more than enough. That's basically all you need. Moving back to the 2nd fret. Now, Tommy moves the complete D chord again to the 2nd fret and frets the B bass note, what you now need 2nd fret on the A string. He frets this with the thumb, so the thumb on the A string, 2nd fret, which is even harder than using the thumb on the low E string. Now, I didn't know this the first time when I was transcribing. I didn't have a shot of his left hand. So I just played this using the index finger. And again, it sounds fine. I'm actually used to playing it like this now. So you can pick out either you play the chord in front of the beat, adding in the bass note, but this, I will warn you, will make it a bit more difficult in a second because you have to use the pinky as well. Or you just move down and add in the index finger for the bass note. See, again, what works for you. And that is what makes it difficult to use the thumb, because after you end up on that D chord, you have to hammer on with the pinky, pull off, and then pull off with the middle finger to the open string. So that's the rhythm you should play. 3, 4, 1, 2, ending up on the 2nd beat. Now make sure you play that D triad in front of the beat, adding in the bass note on the 1st beat and then initiating the pull off. So 3, 4, 1, 2. First the chord, then the bass note, then the hammer, the pull-offs, I'm sorry. And to top it off, when you enter or when you target that last open string, you have to produce another one of those percussive clicks at the exact same time. 3, 4. In this case, I find it easiest to produce a really light click with the thumb just on a muted open E bass string, because there's nothing going on in the bass at this time. 3, 4. Moving to an open E chord. So in that little section, there's a lot going on. Those hammer-ons and pull-offs on the D chord, then seeing if you want to fret it. That was the fingering with the thumb over the side of the neck. And again, more often than not, Tommy actually doesn't play that A note on the G string, so you can leave it out just to make the fingering a little bit easier. And another click to round out again these 4 bars with. So there's already a lot more going on than in the first section. Again, key to this is keep the tempo low. Make sure that alternating bass line really sits where it has to be in terms of groove. And then take your time getting those left hand techniques in the right spot. Let me play those 4 bars all the way through. And then we move that last click on that E chord to move up to the 9th fret for the next section. Heading for an F sharp minor chord. Bar across the 9th fret, all the way across all 6 strings, adding in the middle finger, pinky and ring finger on the 10th and 2 times the 11th fret. Just the exact same chord you would play as an A minor root on the 5th fret, all the way up on the 9th fret. Moving in. That's the first bar. Again, the picking pattern isn't that difficult. The pinky has to do some hammering on. So, and as you hammer on to the 12th fret, the bass note should land on the exact same beat. And another one of those really quick pull-offs with the middle finger to the bar on the 9th fret. That was the full bar. Heading into the next bar. Middle finger and index finger on 2 times the 11th fret. Light percussive strum, as always, not really clicking with the plectrum, but just the back of the nails loosely across some muted strings. 3, 4. And what Tommy does, he just moves these 2 fingers, the ring finger and the pinky, he just moves them up closer to the low E string. So going from the D string and the G string to the A string and the D string. 3, 4. And now I've written down the 9th fret on top with an X down below. Tommy again plays a strum here, more of a percussive effect. And I don't know if it's intentional, but oftentimes that high C note, the high C sharp will just pop out for the shortest amount of time, just 1 millisecond, that you can really hear that high C note on top. But as I said, I don't really know if it's intentional. This is the full bar of that C minor chord. 3, 4. That's what it does. So that really, really short high note you can hear in there, that's almost exactly like Tommy plays it. But as I said, I don't know if it's intentional. It's just the moment you do that strum downward, release the chord as quickly as you can. 2, an open chord. Tommy uses the ring finger and the pinky on the 9th fret on the G and B string, the index finger on the 5th fret on the high E string. That's quite a stretch. And then he removes the index finger and plays an open E string. To a low E note to transfer to the next chord. Beautiful chord. If that stretch is difficult, there are 2 other options. Either you do this, so just with the pinky or other fingers from the 10th fret to the 9th fret, or I even found this fingering, index finger 10th fret on the B string and then pinky 13th fret on the G string, and then you can keep that overlapping effect. So that's a lot easier than this stretch. So open E string, 10th fret on the B string, 13th fret on the G string, and then an open D string. And to the same open E chord. So this might be an alternative that almost sounds exactly the same with those overlapping notes, but is a lot easier than that big stretch, especially if your hands are a bit smaller. So this is how it sounds like with the original fingering. This is the alternative. So So see what works for you. The alternative, I don't think I would hear the difference if I would hear somebody play this without actually seeing where the fingers go. Moving to a G dominant 7th chord with a 9th degree and a flat 5. Ring finger, 3rd fret, pinky, 3rd fret, index finger, 2nd fret, and then you're starting with an open string, hammering onto the 2nd fret. And then Tommy often does the trick where he points the finger when he does the pull-off. So if you want the showmanship of Tommy along with it, then just study that as well. So just whenever you do the pull-off, just point. That's how he does it as well. Don't forget that open E string, that open E string coming from... That open E string will give you the time to do or to make that transfer into that lower sounding chord. Again, 4 bars, let me play them back to back. And then again, it's basically the same melody we're starting out with, but then Tommy starts re-harmonizing. He's going to use the same melody, but he's going to move to different chords. This is really easy to miss if you're not paying attention. So he starts with the same melody, but straight away he enters on an F-sharp bass note. And this time he always plays a hammer-on, using a bar from the 2nd fret, hammering on with the ring finger and the pinky. The rest of the picking pattern we know. Now what is interesting is Tommy uses the thumb over the side of the neck, and then for the next chord, which is the hardest one, he switches back over to the middle finger on the 3rd fret on the low E string. Now I think it's a lot more economical in terms of movement if you start with the index finger for the bass note. And I'm starting with a bar across the 2nd fret, hammering on, and then releasing the bar to get that open B string, holding down just a low F sharp. And I think this position is really a lot easier to switch to the next chord, which is this. Middle finger on the 3rd fret and the ring finger and pinky stay where they are. And Tommy will again play that same really quick pull off on the open B string from the 1st fret. Moving to the index finger, 2nd fret on the G string again. Now, I have large hands and I think that this is really hard to play. That first pull off. Again, you can use the same trick instead of playing the pull off. Here on top you can play a really quick slide here. And again, if your hands are on the smaller side, this can be a lifesaver and this can be what you need to learn how to play the song in full. So Tommy's original fingering. Sorry, the original fingering was with the thumb. That was the original fingering. Now, my alternative, the thing I'm pretty used to right now, is using the bar straight away. And then I keep the 2nd chord the way Tommy plays it. And then there is the next option, which is using the slide going from the 5th fret to the 4th fret. Again, this largely depends on the size of your hands and how you can manipulate your playing posture to see what works for you. If you come down, whatever option you use, you come down from this fingering, moving to the index finger on the 2nd fret of the G string. Your index finger stays where it is, because you're heading again for a D over F sharp chord. Same hammer on we used before. Then to a bar on the 4th fret to an E chord with a G sharp in the bass. bar across all 6 strings, and then ring finger on the 6th fret, middle finger on the 5th fret. Light click, bass note with the pinky on the 5th fret and a bar across the 2nd fret for a D major 9th chord. Back to back, 3, 4. That D bass note is pulled in front of the beat by a 1/8 note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. The chord, the bar you play, it lands on the first beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Chord lands on the first beat, and then open E string, open B string, and then that's the end of the melody note, using mostly the index finger. Sometimes Tommy likes to add in pieces of an E chord as well. So adding in the middle finger on the D string as well, sliding up, picking that melody note, and maybe even that D string a second time. And then this chord has to ring out across the bar because you're heading straight into the re-intro, and you're starting with this fingering. So in the beginning we used this fingering, index finger, middle finger. On the repeats, Tommy often plays it like this, using the middle finger and the index finger. Let me play those last few chords all back to back. And straight back into the intro. It's a lovely link, no time to waste, just straight back into the re-intro. So one more time, those last few chords, I forgot to mention one little percussive click in between. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, again a click, so in between that D chord, click, straight into the intro again. When I mention those clicks, remember always they're really, really light. No hard clicking with the plectrum, it's just the back of the nails mostly. One more time, those last few chords without me, without all the commentary across them, and then the last 4 bars in total, and then the whole first verse. Here we go. Straight back into the intro. Those last 4 bars back to back, going to use the original fingerings. Apart from that thumb over for the first chord, I'm going to use the bar across the 2nd fret. Straight into the intro again. That was the full verse, so there is basically an alternative for each chord that uses the thumb over the side of the neck, and I'm quite happy to use a few of those alternatives myself. I'm going to play through the whole first verse really slowly, then it's on to the next verse, but I can already tell you that is a full repeat, nothing will change. Here we go, one more time, really slowly, the first verse. Straight back into the intro. The only thing I forgot was the pointing when the pull-off happens. Now maybe just one little cut in. I'm recording this all the way after editing the video. Maybe it would be fun just to do one take of the verse with all of those alternatives played back to back. So you can get sort of an image, or you can sort of imagine what it would sound like if you really struggle, for instance, with those fingerings with the thumb. What does it sound like if you leave all of them out and you go for all of these alternatives in a row? Because maybe you might start thinking, well, there's not going to be much left of the song, and really it isn't that bad. So let me play through the verse one time, avoiding the thumb altogether and going for all those alternative voicings, including the slides from the 5th fret to the 4th fret instead of those pull-offs on the open string, just so I can show you that this is actually playable for people with smaller hands as well. Here we go. So again, the thumb, that's really autopilot. But as you can see, it really doesn't sound wrong at all. There's a few things you have to leave out, but I think it holds up really nice if you want to skip out the thumb and some of that more difficult or stretchy voicings in the verse. It really works. And with that take on the alternative fingerings, I'm going to conclude part 1 of this tutorial. Next week I'll post part 2. In that part we'll be covering the chorus, some variations on the intro and the verse, as well as the ending. See you there.